All right. How's everybody doing out there this evening? This is Gold Pilled here with the Gold Pilled stream. And this is kind of going to be a laid back video talking about um, kind of just the state of our country, um, which would be USA, in case anybody hasn't caught on there yet, and where things are going here in the future. I don't think the future looks real good. And couple couple videos I've seen here, they've raised some questions um, about the controller's plans for us, and some ways that they how they control us. So I got two video clips here. The one I just listened to right before I made this video, and the other one was the main one I was going to cover, but the second one kind of seemed like a plausible scenario, so figured I'd include that and throw that out there for people to ponder on. But the first one is True Stream Media. I'm sure probably, well, hopefully some of you out there are familiar with True Stream Media. They do some good work, and their last video, they were just talking about how they manipulate people and how they control people. And they have a pretty good take on it, like a pretty good theory on how they control people. And it's a little more in depth than, kind of what I even pondered on, which is they do a lot of their control by the online content, the internet. The internet being a major factor of their control over people and the way people think and the way people behave and the way people act. But their take is much more involved, and if true, they've been doing this for decades, because this is like a long-term control, and I believe it's plausible. Because ever since World War II, they've really amped up their matrix creation, so to say. That's pretty much what they're doing. They've created an actual matrix for society, and so this technique that True Stream Media theorizes, it could very well be true. So let's share the screen and we'll go over there and check it out. All right, let's start it. Or maybe not here. What's going on? I will mention it's probably I'm trying my second VPN service now. I mentioned before I was trying ExpressVPN. Well, I got my refund in 30 days, and I am now trying NordVPN. And just between the two, ExpressVPN is much better. NordVPN's not bad, but Express was still better. And when NordVPN is up in 30 days, I'm going to try CyberGhost. And CyberGhost seems to be the cheapest out of the three. So I hope CyberGhost is good enough, because I'm probably going to stick with that being the cheapest. But, so let's see if we can get this here to play.
A lot of times that we in this modern Western society, especially here in America, we do not process our emotions, especially our fears and anxieties. We don't process these things. We're not even taught healthy ways how to do that, generally speaking. I mean, some people pay, I don't know, hundreds of dollars an hour to go to analysts and counselors and psychologists to figure out a way to process that. And other people go and get prescribed multiple different kinds of psychotropic medications to try to figure out if that's going to help them just numb out the effects of not processing that. But as far as actually processing that energy, putting it in the right file system in our brain so that we can handle our daily lives without it just brimming under the surface, coming back to haunt us like a demon, we don't do that. We're actually instead, I think, generally, as a group, taught to hold all of this stuff in. We're not taught how to process it. And people are just walking around holding all of these things in. All of this unprocessed emotion, feelings, and everything. And I think, in a way, we're trained to do that. I think, in a way, that's very useful to a system that wants to be able to trigger people. Let's call it group flow. If you have a whole bunch of people with a whole lot of anger towards an issue that they've not processed. They've taken it on as if it's their perception of reality and not just something they saw on TV. No, it's personal to them now, and they're holding all of that in, and they're just right there with it all the time. Then anytime those buttons are pressed, bring up anything, you can direct a whole mass of people to aim that energy, at any enemy you want.
First, ask a scientist to develop a material that could be put into hot water over and over, because babies must take a bath.
It's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's Russia, it's whatever they want, fill in the blank. That's a weapon, man. You want to talk about a death ray? You just get everybody who has no idea that their body is just holding in all of these negative feelings and emotions that they have not even faced enough to realize they're there. They're just all shoved down in the subconscious closet till it's overflowing and it's just still shoved in there. And
then ask him to find a way for fluid to go in and out of a doll's body, because babies drinking wet,
And they don't even know they're doing it because it's so ingrained. It's just what people do. So they don't even know it's all down in there, but it's just right under the surface of their subconscious waters, just floating around in the dark like sharks in there. And anytime they just want to aim that somewhere, everyone who's got that going on, they can just aim it like a laser weapon or a beam, just aim everyone's anger here, aim it there, this, that. I mean, it's a very useful way to get things done. And it's also a way of keeping people just steadfastly held into the superficial 5 sense reality of whatever they say is going on, and is this place we're all living in together, whatever that narrative is, then you're just married to that, right?
All this testing took 6 months. And finally, like Mr. Mictum, you would call a meeting of your experts. You would check every detail, for this would be a very important doll.
And Aaron was saying, we don't talk about it. We try to pretend like it's not the case, but this consumerist, materialistic society they've built, especially since World War II, but that's really been America the whole time, is like a cult. It's it's a giant cult, and we don't talk about it being a cult. We don't acknowledge that it's a cult.
Well, I mean, yeah, part of it's being trapped in a worldview, and there's only kind of one lane or channel for thinking within that in this society. Having studied ancient cultures and group processes and rituals in several countries now, Melissa and I, and details.
So let's pause it there for a second. She's talking about how she's mainly talking about the USA, how they've got us kind of pretty much one big cult, and that might have a lot of truth to it. She even mentions, after World War II, because if anybody's done research after World War II, it was, like I said, the big matrix creation, or the formation of, the cult, the modern, hoorah America cult. And there's probably a lot of, truth to that. And then she's talking about how they don't have, don't give us the tools to process stuff. And that allows them to manipulate us and control us more, with being able to direct, emotions, or elicit emotional responses whenever they want. And I believe right before I started the clip, she was talking about the word triggered. And she was saying how that term never existed, up until, within the last 10 years. And then that became a word. And it's kind of, how, it's kind of how they, they trigger an emotional response from us. And if you've seen any of the, latest videos with people that are in the politics, the Democrat, Republican, left, right, divide, and you see a video of someone getting triggered, they go off the deep end, make a fool of themselves, flip out, break stuff, harm people, and it's them being triggered. And they're being triggered by the beast system, by the Matrix. And, it makes you wonder, just how deep does this control over us run? And I believe I showed the video clip in a past video of that Uvel Ferrari, whatever, Klaus Schwab's man. And he talks about, our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, our daily actions. They're not our own anymore. They're controlled. So if he's right, there's a very deep mechanism of control that they've laid out, over these past how many decades. And everyone is completely oblivious to it, completely unaware that it exists. It's just day-to-day life in the Matrix for everyone. Let's continue.
That are forthcoming. We have studied these group processes, and sure, if they're exploited in a certain way and abused in a certain way, it's the type of organization of a group that could lead to a cult. It's one of the components that cults build upon, but in and of itself, it's a very healthy energy that respects the human dynamic and the natural dynamic, because there's a time for venting frustrations, for venting anger, for letting go of things,
for dealing with fear,
for making a metaphor of the human experience with the cycles of nature, of the sun, of the seasons, etc. Metaphorically tying those to the seasons of human life, right? And really recognizing the energy between a community. So the way we think about modern cults, this can easily be exploited. And sure, the more famous cults, some of those leaders are crazy and have done some very terrible exploitative things. Some of them have abused women and children and what have you, and that's obviously not okay. At the same time, they're tapping into something that's been used everywhere around the world throughout time. And for those who are in the know, for the priest class and the educated classes of this world, studying the past has clearly unleashed that knowledge and made it exploitable for the present. So for everything they've put off on certain famous cult leaders, those same techniques and tactics are being used by society at large, okay?
A doll is made head first. The soft plastic head is pulled from its baking mold. When it is squeezed, it will always spring right back into shape.
And we think of this world as the normal one, the free world, and anything outside of that is a cult or potentially a cult. And meanwhile, what we live in is run off of a cult energy that is broadcast through the mainstream media and reinforced in the government and institutions. We think we're living in a free world, but we're trapped into a consumerist mentality. We have a certain rather narrow and rigid belief about the history of this country and the purpose of our society, which really disregards a lot of history, which keeps people ignorant and in the dark of the larger context of things. And it's not about endorsing any one part of history or saying that a certain part of the past is better. It's just knowing the fullness of it, and you can never know all of it, but appreciating the context that's available. I don't know that might make sense to some people, and it might not.
Then the heads are put on racks and sent to the makeup room. My goodness, but things happen around here fast.
I'm just telling you, they've exploited the very energy that has been utilized in tight-knit communities that have really developed systems, and it's been redistributed on a mass level.
I mean, that is something they don't talk about with the MK Ultra, and we touched upon it lightly, but it wasn't the main focus of the minds of men. But they were going around studying cultures, specifically in group energy type of situations, so that they could see what the mechanisms were at play there. And I'm just saying that it's not surprising to me anymore, especially after having studied all of this stuff for years now, when the next, what they call the current thing, that meme of like, oh, you support the current thing. Well, they can flip a switch on, quote, the current thing, derisive air quotes, the current thing. And the people who do not realize that this mechanism is playing out in their body, in their mind, in their spirit, all of that, they just get tapped into whatever the next current thing is, and they support it because it really is like triggering. It's like pulling the string on the back of one of those dolls.
I love you.
And these people who don't know themselves, because that's what it is. You have to know yourself. You have to go down into the subconscious now and figure out what's hiding down there that you don't want to deal with. And you have to know yourself to understand, are these fears your fears? Are these anxieties your anxieties? Are they your feelings? Are these emotions you're having? Are they actually yours? Do you really take ownership of them? Or is this something that's just been triggered in you, programmed in from a lifetime of living in this 5-cent superficial reality that's been placed upon you? I mean, that is not what is everything here. There's a whole other situation to this world that's going on, and people are almost trained to disregard it entirely.
You can choose the color of their eyes to make sure they fit in more ways than one. Oh, says your doll as she flutters and blinks, I can see.
Yeah, I mean, people have been programmed and trained and taught in the mainstream of society not to know how to handle their emotions and to push them down so they don't have to deal with them.
This idea of you being able to program something so we know what it's supposed to do.
But meanwhile, to respond to every advertisement, every media event.
But without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
From a place of lack.
Let this smart woman show you another, more practical way.
From a place of never being good enough.
Everyone knows that beautiful hair makes a girl look beautiful.
Never having enough, not being secure enough.
When there's no man around, Goodyear should be.
And therefore basing a purchase on that, or buying into a leadership program in the hopes of being protected to that.
Or insurance or 50, medications. Do you have feelings? Take this pill. Ask your doctor today.
Then her tears are tested under pressure. Watch out!
And also just passively endorsing some kind of solution from the big system, the problem reaction solution, like, oh, that's a really scary problem. I'm glad they're dealing with it. Well, maybe they went too far, but something has to be done about a problem that bad. It's this kind of thinking has been scientifically worked out, and part of that working out is an anthropological process of studying the past.
I mean, if you watch 30 minutes of CNN or MSNBC or Fox News and they're scaring the crap out of you for that whole time about whatever intensely, and then, of course, you're going to feel anxiety, and they cut to a commercial and say,
from doctors' offices across the country come survey replies of what doctors recommend.
Are you feeling anxious? Are you frequently scared? Ask your doctor today about Zicala-Balacala-Blah, Xylachala-Perlam, or whatever, some made-up stuff, that you're going to think you need by that point. And oh, by the way, that pharmaceutical corporation is a sponsor of the news, so...
CBS Health Watch, sponsored by Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by...
It's like a handshake deal for them, a big circular, circle job. But people, we're taught in this society to shove our emotions down and also be detached from them as if they are not a part of us. So that way, when we take on all these other emotions that aren't actually ours, we don't even know we're doing it because we're so detached from our own selves that we don't even realize that we're taking on basically another self. It's like a straw man of ourselves that we take on so that we can be members of this society, quote, derisive air quotes, good citizens who are going to jump when everyone says how high about every single issue and freak out and live your whole life fearing the death they basically tell you every single day is coming shortly by any number of means that they want to scare the hell out of you about all the time. And until people start taking ownership of themselves in the way of knowing themselves, knowing what's down in there, knowing the things you don't want to process, face, and deal with so that you can't be owned by that stuff anymore, you can't really escape out of that matrix because it's like a false matrix that's put down on top of the natural one. And you can't even get to the natural one until you get out of there first.
Well, I mean, even just in the American Revolution, there's the slogan, liberty or death, and variations of that. And in many ways, to really be free in your mind, before you can be free in an occupied, withered down country, you have to be free in your mind. And fear is the mind killer, And you do have to sort of die a type of death before you could be free. You got to break through that stuff, or else you're going to die 1,000 times every day from what would happen if I stand too close to this cliff. What would happen if I go to a country where there's a war? Should I go to a downtown urban ghetto area? What's going to happen? The news says there's shootings
everywhere. A plane could fall
everywhere.
out of the sky. A bus could hit me when I cross the street.
The news says
someone's coughing next to me, and I'm not wearing a mask today.
Don't even talk to someone from another political party. They're extremists. But, there's a million examples. But if you fret and worry over this stuff over and over without ever actually confronting it, you're just dooming yourself to a small death, dose after dose through your whole life without ever breaking through it and being free. And I definitely say that. I'm not attached to anyone's philosophical thinking. I'm not part of any of these cults. I'm just saying mentally you've got to break through. There's a process there. And I'm sure there's people who are further along than I am in it. But it's something I've thought about and been working on, Liberty or death, I choose liberty.
Yeah, liberty.
All right. So that was some good higher level thinking they were doing there. And to boil it down, simply, the USA, the populace, the society, it's very likely that all we are is sheep. Sheep being cultivated for shearing. And, all these decades, they've just been, herding us, cultivating us, and at some point, they're going to shear us. And what that shearing is going to look like, I'm not 100% sure. But there's something coming in the future. This is all leading up to something. Before we move on to that, hark back to where they had the pop culture museum talking about kind of, they have us in a cult and stuff, and our society is pretty much a consumerist, materialistic society, and a little bit of info on that. Like, our culture, the American culture, it's really not our culture. It was a culture created for us. And most of that culture has come out of Hollywood. And if anyone knows the creation and formation and who controls Hollywood, then they would know who created our culture. And kind of everything that we think of, being American, or everything we hold dear as Americans, it really wasn't created by us. It was pushed on us so that we perceived it as being ours. And like I said, most of that came out of Hollywood, and most of it came out of the television. The television itself was a form of mind control. And they knew that before they even implemented it into people's households. I think one of my previous videos dived into that a little bit. So, the pop culture, consumerist, materialistic society we have, it's all that is it's been bread and circus for the past 80, 90 years, just getting us ripe for the slaughter, fattening us up, making us plump, getting us ready for a good shearing. And in my opinion, I absolutely cannot stand this materialistic, consumerist society, this pop culture loving, gluttonous, we gotta have everything. I absolutely can't stand it. It sickens me. And you gotta think, how hard is it to live right in the middle of this society and feel that way? Like, I don't know, at what point I became so humble. A lot of it, had to do with my upbringing and stuff. And, I was taught to value things because we didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot of money, to get all the newest, latest stuff. And that instilled in me. And now as an adult, those are values I have. But now knowing what I know, that's, even stronger now. And I see, the bullshit charade for what it is. And how it was all created and pushed on us to act and behave like this. And now it sickens me. Like, all I want is, what I need to get by. And I'm happy with that. Give me that and family. And you don't need any of the other stuff. There should be no reason you got to try to compete with the Joneses, across the street or down the street. You shouldn't be wanting what all others have, just to be like them. And you want to be part of the group, and the whole group think, and you got to fit in, and blah, blah, blah. It absolutely sickens me, and it's hard. It's hard going through this. So if it would come a time that they shear us and put us back 100 years, I would be fully content with that. If I would just be left alone after that, but they're not going to leave us alone. So let's move on here to what that shearing is going to entail, because they have some lofty goals here by, even 2030, and almost 7 short years, but by 2050, they have lofty goals they want in place, and how are they going to achieve them? Like this whole climate scam they got. They want electric vehicles everywhere, and they're taking initiatives right now to ensure those electric vehicles and stuff. And as the way things currently sit, there's absolutely no way that any of those goals are going to be accomplished. There's just no way. I know California, Newsom, I'm not sure what he passed, executive order, mandate, something, and I forget what the date was. But by that date, there's no more gas engine vehicles being produced, all electric. Well, the California electric grid can handle today's current demands. How is it going to handle every person who wants a car having to have an electric one when that time comes. How's it going to handle that? It's not. So there's no way that that mandate or whatever he did can come to fruition. What about the shipping and stuff with the, big rigs, the 18-wheelers, the hauler trucks? You're not going to have those electric trucks like that. There's no way our technology would allow us to create those, to make them anywhere worthwhile to haul a tractor trailer load of goods. Not on electric, unless they have technology we don't know about, which is possible. I just seen a video the other day. They had a little backhoe, track backhoe, just a small one. It is, those ones that are a little bigger than a bobcat. They have, the 2 tracks and just a single cab sitting on the tracks and a backhoe arm. Just a small one, not a big one. And it was electric, battery operated. And it had a big sticker on the back, no emissions, virtue signaling. And the guy who was, part of the construction team, that was using this equipment, they're like, "This is our new electric digger." He's like, "We used it the other day. We only got 2 hours of use out of it, and the battery was dead." He's there, and then when the battery dies, he's there, "We have to charge it for 8 hours on our big diesel generator." And he walked over and showed they had a diesel generator, and it was about half the size of the backhoe machine, this big diesel generator. So they got 2 hours of use out of this backhoe, and then they got to charge it for 8 hours on a diesel generator. Yeah, that's really cutting down on emissions. So what they're trying to push, this isn't possible. So if they really want to achieve these lofty goals they have, something significant's going to have to happen. And it makes you wonder, what's that significant thing? They want, the latest buzz is the Great Reset, now. And I think the whole C-19 thing initiated the Great Reset. But it's going to play out over many, many years, possibly even a decade, the Great Reset. And I think one of the things about the Great Reset is going to be the monetary reset. So I just seen a video here where it was a Brendan O'Connell video. Let me see if I could pull it up for us. But he had a real quickie video. It was Steve Bannon talking about the Federal Reserve, and he said how much debt we're in. And I believe it was like 150 trillion debt that we are in right now. And there's no way we can pay that back. There's no way. We're never going to pay that back. And they just keep printing more money and printing more money, despite that. So what are their plans for it? Well, probably because they have no intention of ever paying that back. And at some point, they're going to do a great reset and all that. But how are they going to do the reset? That's the question. So let's of Bannon talking.
The biggest scam they have, the biggest con, is not just the appropriations process and how they fund it. It's the Federal Reserve. Okay? 0.5% of the citizens of this country own more assets than the bottom 90%. That's all happened over the last 10 years since 2008. Now, we took a monetary base of back in the 80s of $800 billion. The balance sheet of the Fed was $880 billion under President Bush, right? Balance sheet of the Fed is $9.5 trillion today. The debt's $30 trillion. We have $100 to $150 trillion of contingent liabilities, all just because we're the prime reserve currency. The greatest export we have is the dollar. But all of that rests on the shoulders of our children and our grandchildren. Those are all due bills that are come due. All we've done is we've just cranked everything up. That's why they're talking about these ridiculous, insane bills of trillions of dollars, because the Federal Reserve will print the money. The Federal Reserve, by the way, that's owned not by the American people, a central bank that's owned by 24 prime brokers, being JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. How does that work? And governors that kind of selected, but 12 years. And the best governor we've had in the Federal Reserve right here in Dallas, Richard Fisher, who told you what was going to happen by going to negative interest rates, told you what was going to happen by printing all this money and having $4, $5, $6 trillion, $7 trillion, $8 trillion, now $9 trillion on the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. It's going to cause, you talk inequality, it's not a $15 minimum wage, that's tip money. We have, I think M2 today is what, 22 or $23 trillion. That's how the administrative state pays for itself. We don't need to audit the Fed. We need to end the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has usurped.
Okay, that's enough of Steve Bannon there. He talks a good game, but it's all bullshit. Like, I don't know how he can go out there and speak that, but he's a member of the club. So whatever he's doing here is just rallying the Trump supporters again. Like I said, they're rallying them back up, getting them ready, to forget everything that he did in his past term and the ending of his term. Forget about that and get behind him again and support him. That's what he's doing here. And I believe that that's what's currently going on right now. Is I think they want to put Trump back in office for another 4 years. And to do that, they need to reinvigorize everybody and, get all the supporters that kind of bailed on Trump to come back around again, for a second crack at it, with more, lies and bullshit, fed to them to get them to forget. And that's what Steve Bannon's doing here. But what he said is true. $150 trillion, well, they ain't paying that back. So they have to erase it somehow. They have to wipe it away, clean slate. And that's going to come during the shearing. That's what this great reset, the initiation of it, that's probably what that's working to. And it's probably going to be the reset to a digital, all digital currency then. When they do that, all the old system will just be wiped clean. And I wanted to mention, anyone seen Biden's speech the other day? I do believe it was on Friday, where he had it was all dark and the blood red background, and he was making an ass of himself again. Because, he's about senile. And he was calling all the MAGA Trumpers domestic terrorists and the biggest threat to our democracy, even though we don't have a democracy, or we were never supposed to have a democracy, but they love to call it our democracy, and people believe it. But he called them all domestic terrorists, and they're the single biggest threat. And, pretty much demonized, maybe half the country. Might be a little generous, but, and it's, what kind of president, does a national speech like that and demonizes such a large section of the country? You're the president, you're supposed to bring us together to unite everyone, and he's been, all the Democrats, all the ones currently in power, all they've been doing is furthering the divide. And that's all intentional. And it makes you think, well, what's the reasoning? Why are they furthering the divide? It's because they want everybody fighting against themselves. It benefits them, and it takes, the limelight off of them if everybody's fighting back and forth with each other. And it could even play a greater role going forward during the shearing. If you already have people fighting against each other, well, what's going to happen if, resources are taken away? Whatever you need for daily life is taken away. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to have to compete with others for, what's left. And if you're already fighting with people while everything is good and kosher, then when stuff's taken away and you got to fight for what's left, well, there's not going to be a problem of, fighting one another. So it's almost like they want this division, which 100% they do want this division. But they're really out in the open with it now. They really have pitted people against each other. And one more thought before we move on to the shearing, and what that might look like. This ties right in with True Stream Media, talking about, how kind of they formed us into a big cult, and they've used MK Ultra tactics on the populace at large, which they very likely have. I'm sure they took what they learned in MK Ultra and they just, increased the scale of it to where it could be deployed on an entire country size. I'm sure that's possible. I'm sure they've done that. But I was listening to a video segment from David Icke today, and I don't listen to him much anymore, mainly because he put up his paywall, his own video site, Iconic, and you gotta pay to get anything, so he don't really share anywhere else anymore. He's about getting that money now. But every now and again he'll put some videos or partial videos on Odyssey, and he had one there, and he was talking about the MK Ultra and the one girl that I guess survived it. She has a book and a movie. Kathy Lee O'Brien. He recommended this video, and it might be a book, or might be a book on it, but the video is called Trance. And of course he promoted, you can sign up for a 7-day free trial on Iconic and view the, video. And I just went and did a search on BitChute, and I found the video, so I'm gonna watch that. But when I did search for that, and that Kathy O'Brien came up, every video related to that Kathy O'Brien seemed like it was Mel K. She's been on Mel K's show, I guess, numerous times. And Mel K is a super big IIA operative, alt media, shill grifter. So if Kathy O'Brien's, mainstay is, going to Mel K, then I don't know if I can really trust what this Kathy O'Brien has to say, because she's probably just all bullshit too. But I will watch that video just to see if there's anything I can glimmer out of it or discern from it. But you really can't trust anybody anymore. Like I said, my main thoughts on their control is the internet and the media and the digital, realm. But it goes much further than that, like True Stream Media here, showed us. This goes back to the days of television and before. And, MK Ultra, and applying it to, an entire country, and, just messing with people's, thoughts and emotions, and, not giving them the tools to, handle them, and making it so they can be manipulated, at will. But David Icke was talking about, Kathy O'Brien, and I guess, per her story of being an MK Ultra, victim, one of the things was, as a child, they made her wear a mask to dehumanize her, stop the brain from developing, preventing her from getting social cues and stuff. And another, what was the other thing they did? The sexualization as children. They do that in the MK Ultra. I forget what else, but I think there is at least one more, if not, more than one things that they did that this Kathy O'Brien says they did in MK Ultra, and all those things you're seeing playing out on a countrywide basis. With the C-19, everyone wearing a mask, the sexualization of children, all the drag queen story hour, all the gay pride parades, having the kids there, having them at the strip joints, and putting dollars in the trannies stuff, and the don't call them pedos anymore, call them what is it, maps or something, a minor attracted person. So they're doing that on a country wide scale. And so all this stuff that they supposedly did to Kathy O'Brien and MK Ultra, they're doing it to entire countries. So that ties right in with True Stream Media saying they're using MK Ultra, technology, or whatever they discovered, is works, with MK Ultra, and they've upscaled it to put it out on entire countries, and I'm sure they're having great results with it. So where we're going is not good, pretty much is the moral of that story. But so let's move on to the shearing, or some, you could call it the calling. They're going to call us at some point, because you've seen everywhere, they want the population down to nice and manageable. The Georgia Guidestones claimed 500 million, which is not a lot. We have billions now, so I think that's a little small. I think they need more people than that. But unless they have the robotic technology to replace all them people, then, maybe. But I was listening to a Dabu7 stream. He left YouTube for quite a while, but past few weeks he's been putting his underground world news streams on YouTube again. So apparently he either is trying to gain more subscribers, or he's trying to bring in more money. He must be hurting on money for him to go back to YouTube. So he's getting his grift on, going back to YouTube, that's all that is he's grifting. And I used to, think he was an all right, alternative media source for a little while. And then I just, I stepped to the next stone and seen him, kind of for what he is. And he's probably an IIA operative too. He goes clear back to the beginnings of this alternative media, with, connections to Richie from Boston, and Call for an Uprising and stuff like that. They, like I said before, they have their own little cliques, and they've clicked with each other, IRL, in real life before. And so it very much raises the question of, IIA operatives, IIA operations. These channels have been put into operation for quite a while. So I'm pretty sure that's what Dabu is. He talks a big game. Oh, you don't like it, Jack? Get off my channel and don't come back. Always saying that like he's this big tough guy. Or you don't like what I gotta say, then leave. I'm so cool. I'm so cool. And I followed him to DLive. And share my screen here. I followed him to DLive when he left YouTube. So like I said, he was done with YouTube. So the fact that he's back on there is he's trying to ramp up his grift. He must be hurting. But and I'd sometimes I would catch it live in the live chat. Every now and again, I might throw a comment out there or question him or something, and he'd get ignorant about it. And then I got banned on there for, I don't even know what I did. It wasn't nothing ban worthy. I got banned then. They don't like you questioning echo chambers. So after that, I was done with them. So you want to ban me for pretty much no reason, then, I don't need to listen to you because I pretty much outgrown you already. But now that I've seen he's been back on YouTube, I add him to my watch list, just in case I run out of things. I'll put it on as he covers, kind of some current headlines and stuff. And so I just happened to be listening to this one here, and right at the end, he gets into a shearing scenario. So he's always talking about the blackout. We're gonna have the blackout, the grid down. Oh, you better be prepared, cats. Cats better be prepared for the grid down because it's coming, man. The dude's like gray now. He's acting like he's late 20, hip person still, and dude's gray, trying to rock the alt media with the younger cats. So he definitely, he gotta be an operative in my opinion. But it came to this one where he kind of specified a scenario of them shearing us, and the way he laid it out, I believe it's plausible. It's a plausible scenario he lays out. And he starts it off by saying, if you see the screen here, this headline, the U.S. power grid can't support its climate pledges, which is what I talked about with California and stuff like that. With what they want to do and what they're saying they're going to do, it can't be done right now. So if you want to do what you're saying you're going to do, you need a big overhaul, a great reset, one might say, or a, just a major upgrade. So that's how this starts. But take notice, as I was watching this video and all these headlines that Dabu's covering about the path, he goes one after the other and talks about it. Well, the last 5 headlines that he did in this video, they were all zero hedge, all Tyler Durden. And I forget what I was watching, but Tyler Durden, that's an alias. It's a pen name. And I don't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines that he either works for InfoWars, or he was previously with InfoWars, or there was something shady about Tyler Durden to where it kind of spelled it out that he's IIA operations, this Tyler Durden pen name. So you see the alt media always rocking these headlines, these latest news headlines, and it's this zero hedge, Tyler Durden, all these articles. Best be aware that you're likely listening to IIA operations. So like I said, that's all Dabu's been covering. Every article has been Tyler Durden. And he has a backstory that can't be trusted, this Tyler Durden. So let's listen to this. Now, like I said, this is a plausible scenario, because I always said they're not going to do a grid down thing, because the grid and the digital online is their mechanism of control. I said the only way that they would do that is if they took it down for a short period and then brought it back up. Now, that's what Dabu lays out here. They take it down and then they bring it back. But the way he lays out here, I'm not so sure they would do it this way, because what would be left after they do it would kind of be nothing. Like, the whole society and infrastructure would be broken after that. Factories, manufacturing, everything would be broken. They would have to build all that back up again. So I don't know that they would actually do this, just because of the devastation. But let's talk about that after we listen. So let's play this. You listen to it, and listen to this shearing the sheep scenario. And like I said, this is plausible. If they were going to do something, it would be something along the lines of this.
They're talking about the only way that America can do what it wants to do with renewable energy is to start implementing a whole new grid system. And let me tell you something. You do not roll out a brand new grid system in this country until you take down the old one, and I think they're about to do it. We've speculated on this for a long time about maybe this, maybe that, solar event, EMP, cyber attacks, could be a plethora of, a combination of things. But now there's something new that's entered the phrase in terms of all the talk that should tell you that our grid is about to get reset. They want to implement, not only in the United States, but globally, smart grids. And that's it. My conscious energy, when I feel and hear all this, knows immediately that there's a reset about to happen. And they've telegraphed this whole great reset right in front of your face, rubbed your face in the poo, and said that this is how it's going to go. So I'm warning you. We're about to see big-time power outages, and it's not just going to be a summer thing. It's going to be into winter. Grid plan now. Target a size of a system, a kilowatt system that you can survive on, that you can get by on just with basic needs. You may not have all the luxuries anymore, but you're talking survival at this point, and that's what it's going to be about. There ain't going to be running a dozen lights. It's going to be a different world. Again, I foresee a massive lights out event coming. It is the number one thing that I've warned about this whole time, for years on end. And all of you know it. I know that when the lights go out and this event does happen, when these days come and we're all nervous, we're all running around, we're all scrambling, none of us are going to have everything that we wanted to make it from there. But I know a lot of people are going to remember these days. A lot of people are going to look back and remember all these nights that we sat, Look, over 40% of America thinks that civil war is going to happen within this decade. And the easiest way to do it is to turn the people against each other, not the government. And the easiest way to do that is to have them fight for whatever is left, for whatever goods that they can get their hands on.
Pause it there for a second. I was skipping a little bit because I thought he got into his scenario a little more quickly, which he didn't. He's dragging it out, doing his typical Dabu fear porn for everyone. Oops, didn't have my mic over there. Hopefully you guys heard that. Anyway, yeah, I was skipping around because he was dragging it out in his typical Dabu 7 fear porn fashion. That's a lot of what he does here is fear porn, old Dabu. But this civil war, like I said before, we're not going to have a civil war as long as the bread and circus is dished out to us. We are so weak and pathetic and lazy and gluttonous that ain't no one going to get up off their ass to fight a civil war. The only way a civil war is going to happen is if they do the scenario that Dabu lays out here. So let's continue, and hopefully he gets to it, or I'm going to continue to skip a little bit.
When I've simulated this, thank you, ZQ. Good to see you. When I've simulated this has always come down to, well, let me simulate it. Here's the sun sets, on this stream on another one. Give my final thoughts. I'll take us out to 11:11.
Oh my God, get on with it, Dabu.
If I'm the bad guy, and we step into the bad guy's shoes, and we say we want to kill everybody, we want to kill everybody here in this country, the most we can, how are we going to do it? Well, to me, I think that if you shut the lights off on everybody, regardless of how it's done, and regardless of how they think it's done, you can leave all these people crippled, no gas stations, no phone, no nothing. You leave this whole country with nothing. You take them back to the 1800s and you leave them sit. We watch by satellite, we watch by drone, and we bring in UN troops and we have them stationed on the coastlines and at the border, waiting. We let weeks go by, we let a month go by. In a month, we observe that everything that we wanted has already begun. People have begun killing people, and it's begun large scale. There's groups have formed, factions have formed, mass murderings happening on a large scale. People are overtaking certain facilities just to get the supplies and the goods are there. No new supplies are being made, and people are realizing this. Imagine there's a warehouse that's full of food and full of goods and all this stuff. Well, guess what? Our country's shut down completely. Nothing's coming in no more. Whatever you get your hands on, your hands are on to the end of your days. There's no foreseeable future. Nothing ever entering America again at this point. You're in the dark. We've been there for 30 days. People are killing each other, eating each other. That's how bad it's gotten. But as the bad guys, this is everything we wanted. We wanted them to do this because they're wasting their energy. They're wasting all that ammunition that they saved on each other. And we let it go a couple more months. A couple of months, somebody says, yeah. And this is the evil speaking this, saying, yeah, we do. They're going to be like, well, by God, we're going to be able to smell the bodies in every city for 100 miles away. And they're going to be like, exactly. That's exactly what we want. The first month when it's planned, let's multiply this out. Let it go out 3 months. And what this will do is it's going to deplete their supplies. It's going to thin out the packs. 3 months goes by. Millions and millions and millions, tens of millions have been killed. There's bodies being burnt, stacked up all over the place. This is when you start to send in the first help. You send in blue helmets. And instead of, as every patriot had always imagined, fighting against the blue helmets, they're whatever coming in here, it's not going to happen because you ain't even going to have any ammunition left. And anyone that's left, for the most part, is going to go running toward them for help because they're going to have fresh food that you ain't seen in months, showers, clean water that you ain't seen in months. They're going to be the saviors. And they're going to say, hey, the whole international community came and helped. Even Russia and China, whatever, they're rubbing your face. We've got food. We've got a camp that you can go to. And it's done. All that will be left are small pockets, and they'll go through on a loudspeaker, and they'll say, this is the UN. We're here to help. We've got food. We've got a facility for you. We can take you, get a clean shower, all these things. Do not pull any weapons. Anyone that's hostile will be shot on sight, will be killed on sight. And at this point, they will start going through and start targeting the last pockets of any militia groups, any patriots, and they will know where they all sit. They will have spent months watching them by drone. They will know where they are, who they are, how many there are. And if they ain't drone striking them at that point, they're sending in the UN. That's the end of this country and how it finishes. Do you understand? And when this whole cleanup process is done, the new America, the new North American Union will be born, because you don't take down America with that Canada and the whole thing coming down. It's designed that way. Again, go to Manly Peace book, The Secret Destiny of America. You know where this is going. They're bringing down the whole thing. And again, an EMP in bringing down all the electric structure would serve great, because not only you get 3 birds with 1 stone, you get Mexico, Canada, and the United States. You bring them all down under the same excuse. Put them all in the dark. Same thing, all across the board. Then you deplete all those people. When you bring the whole thing back up, it's the new North American bloc pushing the brand new CBDC, Amero, as they called it way back then. Look, they have a new name. That's just the initial name they gave it back then, telegraphing to you where this was going, and they were right all along. And we're on the doorstep of that whole financial reset. So would it make sense to do the reset? Maybe that is part of the reset. Maybe when it comes back up online, everything's digital. Ding, 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 ding. If you want to participate in the new world, in the new way, you have to have your new bio ID that tracks and traces everything, even your carbon footprint. You've got bow down to the beast system. If you want to participate in this new infrastructure of smart cities that are going up, and hell, we've even got UFO technology rolling out now, anti-gravitics and teleportation, but you can't participate in none of society unless you have the mark. Crypto walked them all right into the trap. Blockchain is ran by the beast, and it is a ball and chain. Your privacy and everything will be gone. Don't ever forget it. They run the whole shebang. Your only hope is underground until your end days. I don't know what you were thinking and where this was going to go in the end. It's the only place in the end. Because up here on the surface, they're going to scour it all, bomb it all, track them all, kill them all the way. If you want any way of peace, and they will hunt the underground too. Of course they will. Let the games begin. We come from out the shadows. So when corrupt politicians and all these other people are rounded up and they're sent to the guillotine, may the Lord God be with us. Well, Yeshua says he will come. He'll meet us in the air. He'll call up all the spirits.
All right. Enough of the praise Jeebus thing. That's another part of his grift. Praise the Jeebus. So that's his theory, his scenario there. And that's very plausible. The only contradiction I see to it is if that happened and it went, 3 months, even a little longer, everything would be broken. So when they'd want to, like I said, bring the system back up, there's going to be nothing to bring up. People will have looted and pillaged everything to the point everything's broken. So there won't be anything to bring back up. Now, it would be possible if they took everything down that they would have a secret private grid for them to still operate satellites, drones, pretty much a private network that only they could access and operate on while everyone is, down. For them to monitor the groups, the factions that form, militias that get put together. They would be able to monitor all that and everything. And, then they said when it's time to bring it back up, when everyone's desperate, all the resources are depleted, all your ammo's depleted, that's how you'd willingly go into the beast system then. And that would be the Great Reset, and you'd be happy to see it. After living in, pretty much kind of Lord of the Flies scenario there for months. But like I said, at that point, for them to bring the system back up, there would be no system. Everything would be broken unless it was something secret that they could protect during that time. And like their smart cities and stuff, well, there would be none of that. They would have to have that built ahead of time, in order to usher you into that when ready. Because if not, they would have to, start building that, which that would take how long, to get you into it. So that's a questionable scenario, is whether they do it like that. But that's a very plausible one, and it makes a lot of sense. Like he said, the people would do their job for them. They would call each other, tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions would be dead. Their resources would be depleted. Food, ammo being a big one. They wouldn't be able to fight the Blue Helmets or the UN or anything when they come in, offering help. And it would be the reset of the current system. The system would be down, and they could reset it into a new system. So when I heard that, it was kind of eerie, because, like I said, there's something coming. They're gonna shear us somehow, and this might be how they do it. Like I said, I wouldn't mind going back to the simpler times, but be left alone, to do that. But in this scenario, you would not be left alone. You would have the government, monitoring you, and then, offering you help to get you in the B system. But you would have, like a zombie apocalypse scenario where you're fighting for survival, killing other humans, pillaging for, resources, fighting for those resources, killing for those resources. That's not being left alone. You would never be able to stake out a plot of land and, and work the land in that scenario, because other people would be trying to take anything from you. So not like that. That's not how I would want to go back to simpler times. But there's something coming. Like I said, they have lofty goals. Like Dabu started their climate pledges. Our current system and infrastructure can't support any of that stuff. So what are they going to do? That means that, what they're saying they're going to do, major changes need to be done in order to achieve that. So if they're serious, that means something big is, coming. And that's what we need to be prepared for. It's kind of the point of my videos here, is to, share what I see, share the reality the way I see it with others, so that they can start thinking and, start planning to, possibly have to survive, the coming future. Because if not, all the people who are completely clueless, they're oblivious, living in the Matrix, no idea, that any of this is going on. They're still in the two-party paradigm. Well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. They're going to die. If a scenario like this happens, they're going to be killed very quickly by their fellow American, because they had not a clue, any of this coming, and they're not equipped to survive. Quick story today. I went to my local gas station. I can say which one because they cover many states now. My local Sheets. And I was getting a roll of snuff, a roll of Copenhagen. And right when I was turning to walk out after I, got my snuff, this girl went up to the clerk and she goes, I have kind of a weird question. He's like, yeah. She's like, could somebody come out here and help me put air in my tires? He said, oh, sure. He yelled back to somebody, "Hey, you go help her put air in her tires." And I walked out the door. I didn't see who it was. And I went out one door. Well, the guy who was going to help her, him and her went out another door. And as I was walking in my car, I seen them going out the other door. And it was some relatively young black girl. And she didn't look like your degenerate black girl. She looked, pretty well upkept. She had looked like possibly scrub type pants on. She was, dressed nicely, moderately, not hood, not trashy. And I seen her car sitting over by the air compressor. And it was a, newer car, a nicer car, not something a hood or trashy one would have. So she looked like a decent member of society. And, the Sheets clerk was following behind her, but this young girl, completely clueless on how to put air in her car tires. I mean, it's not rocket science. I can understand maybe never have, done it before. No one's ever explained, hey, this is a car tire. Hey, this is the stem. This is where the air goes in. I can understand that. But, at some point of living life, you should just, I don't know, somehow the capability, to at least attempt to put air in and then be like, oh, okay, I see this goes on this, would somehow enter your brain. But this girl hadn't the slightest clue how to put air in her tire. She had to ask a Sheets employee to come out and help her. That's what we're dealing with these newer generations. I'm a tail end of Gen X, and all the generations after Gen X, they're lost. The beast system is, I don't even know what the beast system has done to them. They've been born in the, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. They've been born brainwashed, pretty much, the beast system. The beast system got their parents, screwed them up, and now the kids that they had after Gen X, they're just born into being brainwashed and the products of failed parents. So we're not going nowhere good, folks. There's going to be a shearing coming. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what that's going to entail. I don't see them breaking everything. I don't think they can do it. So, to have this scenario Dabu lays out is probably not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. Now, if they're able to build a redundant network to have in the background and then crash, the front ground network, make it look like it to everybody, everything's gone, but in reality, there's already another system ready to replace it after we do all the jobs for them, then possibly. But right now, I don't believe that secondary network exists yet. So that's pretty much my presentation there for today, guys. Think about that. Think about how they're controlling people, how they've been controlling people for decades. Think about how they're manipulating your thoughts and emotions. Think about how pretty much everything you consume is intended to control you. And think about the materialistic, consumeristic, pop culture society they have made us, and how sad and pathetic it really is. The pop culture really pisses me off. I can't stand the whole pop culture Hollywood bullshit. Like, it's not ours. We didn't create it. We were given it, and we act like it's our, it's part of the American spirit. And, oh, I know pop culture. I'm so cool, and I'm part of society because I know stuff. It's sickening. So, all right, I'm done. Take care, folks. Just, start thinking higher, start planning. Have a plan. if a shearing was to come. Take care, everyone. This is Gold Pilled. I'm out. Peace.